12th of never. That's when many wrongly accused post office subpostmasters reckon they'll get their compensation. And the post office campaigner, Sir Alan Bates, has said enough, enough. He's urged victims of the Horizon scandal to get on their own hind legs and take new legal action against the UK government over these seemingly infinite delays to compensation.
Well, in an email, Mr Bates said, returning to the courts may seem to be a long haul, but it will probably be the quickest way to ensure fairness for all. He fears victims could be waiting until 2027 for all claims to be settled. That is a forecast the government's disputed. But here's what Alan Bates told us last year about why he keeps up the fight.
It's been the worst unpaid job I've had for 20 years, but it's just got to carry on with it. And you see the suffering that happened to so many people, and it's not something you can give up.
Well, supporting the new legal action is Chris Head, who became Britain's youngest sub-postmaster. He was only 18, just out of school. But he was later accused of stealing £80,000 from the post office. And despite receiving an OBE for his tireless campaigning, he's getting that gong later today at the Palace. That's his reward for everything he's done. What he hasn't got is his payout. And in fact, the payout that you've applied for keeps shrinking. You were offered, what was it, 30-odd%?
Yeah, it was. It took 4 offers to get to 35%. You know, we started in the first offer at 13, and took us nearly 2 years to get to 35.
But now it's going down again.
We referred the case to an independent panellist, but you're so restricted in the input that you get into that panel, 3 sides of A4 written submissions, that they actually sent it backwards. And obviously, I disputed that with the government, and then they reinstated it. But now you're at a risk because you want to, you know, if you have to dispute it again, you go back to the same panel. So you have that risk of it going back down.
And this must be so frustrating for you that it's taken all this time and it's had such an impact on your life, hasn't it? And you're still left in limbo.
Yeah, you know, we've been fighting this, we took them to court in 2017 to 2019. That case was settled because we know the government used unlimited taxpayer funds to defeat us in court. And, you know, but here we are now, 2025, 6 years after that court action, and thousands of people are still waiting.
Every sub-postmaster story is slightly different, and that's the case with you. I mean, you started, as I said, as a kid. You were only 18, which is a big responsibility to take on a post office and run it. And boy, did you throw yourself into it. I mean, you worked very long days to build up the business, to build up trust. It was going really well, and then you started to notice small discrepancies in the balance. But how much was seen?
It was amounts of 50, 100, maybe even a couple of £100. And we talk about small, but they're not insignificant sums. But obviously, when you call the helpline, they tell you that, well, you're the only one that's having that problem. And obviously, you're self-contracted, so therefore you're responsible to make them good if you can't, find them.
So you paid up out of your own pocket?
I just paid them. Yeah, I paid back £23,000. In total over the 9 years that I was in office.
But there was a big total that they said that was owed.
Yeah, so in 2014 we had a huge problems with Horizon. It was showing up all kinds of messages saying that the data was corrupt. It wasn't transmitting to the data centre. And we battled with them for the engineers on site for over 6 months.
So they rebooted the system?
They rebooted the system. They eventually agreed to replace the system after 6 months. And when they replace the system, you get a balance at the end of a month. And when we balanced the offers at the end of that, it showed up a discrepancy of over £40,000.
Boom.
And you just think, this can't be right. You kind of set it aside and you contact them again. But within a month, when we got to the next balance, it doubled. It was over 80. And that's when you really, you think, well, there's something seriously wrong here. You think that, they tell you, don't worry, it'll come back, it'll correct itself. And it just didn't.
But the post office wouldn't accept any of the arguments you put forward, and you lost your job.
Next for you?
Yeah, so they did an investigation, suspended me in February of 2015. We went through 2 interviews under caution at a solicitor's office in Newcastle. They searched my home, which was my father's home at the time, searched my cars, all that kind of, looking for money, which obviously...
Looking for how you were spending the money.
And nothing. And after 6 months, they wrote to me and said, we're dropping the case. And I thought, it's the end, it's over. And a week later, I got another letter saying, but we're going to take civil action because we still want to recover the money. And that went on for almost 2.5, 3 years.
So you had that hanging over you?
I had that hanging over me the entire time.
And people in the street, in your small local community, pointing the finger.
Yeah, of course, because it sticks, doesn't it? Mud sticks.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's very, very difficult to...
How did you put up with that as a young lad?
Well, I mean, eventually, I tried to secure other work outside that, since post office was all I'd known, and I was taken over from such a young age. And I ended up leaving the country because I just couldn't secure any work. So, it forced me out of the country.
So for you, when you're looking at sort of the money that you feel you're owed, it's not just sort of the paying back of the money that you'd paid to them, that, you know, there was just so much of an impact of your life that actually
not just on me, it's obviously had an impact on my family, because, you know, my family was supporting me in the business. So the claim is made up by certain elements, as you say, of damages, of loss of earnings, of losing your business and all these kind of things. And I think, you know, like, you get these promises made by the Post Office originally and then the government, where they say, we're going to pay full and fair compensation. It's to put you back in the position that you would have been in. And then the offer drops through the door and they offer you the first offer 13%. You think, well,
yeah.
So what reasons have they given? You seem to have settled now on getting, well, you haven't settled yet, but what they seem to have settled is on offering you 70% less of what you've applied for, roughly, about 70% less. What reasons do they give for that?
Well, to go from the offer where we started at to where we are now, we've provided no new information on top of what they had in the first place. It's just reiterating the arguments over and over.
So heels in the
again.
sand, basically.
Yeah.
And how does it feel today? Obviously, you know, you're going to get an OBE, you're going to be celebrated, you're going to be honoured for the campaigning that you've done on this issue, for what the service you've provided to the state, and yet, on the same token, you know, the state's sort of making it hard for you to get this compensation.
It overshadows it a little bit, you know, because you think, well, you know, it's a privilege and honour to receive recognition for the work that's been done, but it would be nice to be at the end of the process and to know that everybody has received what they're due, and then you can say, right, you can move on with your life, but that's just not the case. You know, we're going to receive an honour, you know, with other members of the group, and then the campaign's going to have to continue straight away again.
You couldn't make up the irony, could you?
No.
You're getting an OBE at the panel. Do you know who you're getting it from?
We don't know yet. We haven't been told, so we have to...
Anyway, you're going to receive from royalty an OBE for campaigning to right these wrongs, and then yet in your individual case, you can't get compensation.
There's a wrong that still hasn't been righted.
Breathtaking.
Yeah, it's
breathtaking.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, really. You know, after all the promises that have been made, after the ITV drama that you saw, and obviously the public outcry, and here we are, you know, again, 13, 14 months after that drama, and it's still going on.
So are you going to do what Mr Bates has been suggesting and sue the government?
I think, look, I think we're running out of options. I mean, the government keeps making these promises, so they're now saying we're going to pay you by the end of 2025. The problem is they made the promise that we're going to pay us by the end of 2022, and then at the end of 2023,
I remember,
and then end of 2024. So it's just history repeating itself. So we can't, you know, trust that they're going to do what they're saying, because they failed us over and over again. And I think, you know, if we delay the legal action and we wait till the end of the year, and then they don't deliver on their promises, we've wasted, you know, another 9 or 10 months.
So the answer is yes.
So I think the answer has to be yes.
Yeah, I think you're right too. I think you're absolutely right.
They have to be held to account. They have to be, you know,
so sorry
got to take matters into your own
having this hanging over your head. But listen, you know, a massive congratulations today. Enjoy it, because it's obviously such a special occasion, isn't it? What a really amazing thing. So thanks for coming in.
Thanks a lot.
Wearing your best suit, coming in to talk to us this morning. We really appreciate it.
I like your tie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really cool tie. Well, look, let's talk about this 2025 promise. A government spokesperson has told this programme that they are continuing to work, quote, at pace. Well, different forms of paces, aren't there? To ensure all postmasters receive financial redress and justice that they deserve. And they've said that so long as the claimants respond reasonably promptly, as if is there a suggestion that you're not doing that? That the government would expect to settle all claims by the end of this year. But as you say, we've read statements like that out before, with a different date, 24, 23, 22.
3 years. More than the same thing,
So we'll see.
Let's hope it all gets sorted soon. Anyway, thanks very much.